Don't fire, cowboy! An Apache woman's fight for freedom in the Wild West. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the distant mountains, painting the Montana sky in shades of orange and purple. The desert air was crisp, and the soft whistle of the wind through the dry grass seemed to echo Eli Turner's own thoughts. After decades of riding across rough trails and handling cattle, the retired cowboy thought he had finally found peace on his quiet ranch. But peace, he knew, was often temporary in the wild frontier. Eli walked along the fence line, inspecting the newly built windmill. It had been a long day, and the gentle creaking of the structure in the breeze offered him a strange comfort. His ranch was modest but self-sufficient. A small herd of cows grazed lazily nearby, and the distant mountains stood like silent guardians over his land. He had no pressing enemies, no urgent business, just the simple rhythm of frontier life. As he bent down to tie a loose board on the fence, a distant cry caught his attention. It was faint, almost like a whisper against the wind, but it was unmistakably human. Eli froze, listening carefully. The sound came again, a soft, desperate call that sent a chill down his spine. Instinctively, he reached for the long rifle leaning against the post and began walking cautiously toward the sound. The desert stretched for miles, but the cries led him to a small canyon. There, half hidden among jagged rocks, were two figures. They were girls, barely older than teenagers, their clothes torn and dusty and their faces streaked with dirt and exhaustion. One clutched a bundle close to her chest, while the other leaned against the rocks, shivering. Eli could see the fear in their eyes, wild, deep, and untrusting. "Hey there," Eli said gently, keeping his voice calm and low. "It's okay. You're safe now. I'm not here to hurt you." The girls flinched, backing further into the shadows. Eli could understand their fear. The frontier was harsh, and strangers were not always kind. But he had faced fear many times before, and he had learned that patience often spoke louder than words. "My name is Eli Turner," he continued. "I live just down that ridge. You can come with me if you want shelter and food." There was a long silence. Then, slowly, the girl holding the bundle took a hesitant step forward. We don't have anywhere to go," she whispered. Her voice was soft but strained, and her eyes flickered with both hope and caution. Eli nodded. "That's fine. Come on, I'll take care of you." With careful movements, he guided them out of the canyon. The desert sun was setting fast, and the temperature was dropping. Eli knew the cold could be dangerous for anyone who was already weak or dehydrated. He moved slowly, letting the girls match his pace, and kept glancing over his shoulder to make sure the path was clear. As they walked, the girls introduced themselves in quiet tones. The older one was Naya, and the younger was Sani. They had been traveling with their small caravan when bandits attacked. Their parents were gone, and they had been fleeing ever since, surviving on little food and water. Eli listened without interrupting, his mind quietly assessing the situation. These were not just lost travelers. They were survivors. By the time they reached Eli's ranch, the sky had turned a deep indigo. The first stars twinkled faintly overhead, and the ranch's wooden buildings cast long, slanted shadows across the land. Eli led them inside the main house, where a warm fire burned in the hearth. He set out blankets and offered them water and simple food. The girls hesitated at first, but hunger and exhaustion won over caution. They drank slowly and ate with careful hands, watching Eli with wide, wary eyes. He said little, letting them eat in peace, and only after a while did he speak again. "You'll be safe here tonight," he said. "No one will harm you on my land. Tomorrow we'll figure out a plan." Naya and Sani exchanged glances, their expressions softening just a little. "Thank you," Naya whispered. We didn't think anyone would help us." Eli shrugged, smiling faintly. "The frontier is tough, but there are still people who care. You just have to find them." As the night grew darker, Eli showed them to a small guest room. The sisters' eyes were heavy with fatigue, and they sank into the blankets with a sigh of relief. Eli lingered at the door for a moment, watching them. Their journey had been long and perilous, and it was clear that trust would take time. But he felt a quiet sense of purpose settle over him. He had rescued many in his life, but rarely had he felt such a strong need to protect and guide. The next morning, the ranch woke to the sound of birds and the soft rustle of wind through the grass. Eli prepared a simple breakfast while the girls explored the small garden behind the house. They were curious, asking questions about the plants, the animals, and the tools Eli used to manage his ranch. Their curiosity and small smiles warmed Eli's heart. "Do you always live out here alone?" Sani asked, plucking a bright yellow flower from the garden. "Mostly," Eli replied. "It's peaceful, but it can be lonely. I like it that way." There's work to do, and the land keeps me busy. The girls nodded thoughtfully. Naya crouched to watch the chickens peck at the ground. It's beautiful here, she said softly. Different from the desert, different from everywhere we've been. Eli smiled. Yes, it is, and it can be safe too if you know how to look after it. As the day wore on, Eli showed them the basics of ranch life, feeding the animals, repairing fences, and even riding a horse for the first time. The girls were quick learners, and their enthusiasm reminded Eli of his younger days when adventure seemed endless. He found himself laughing more than he had in years, and the ranch felt alive in a way it hadn't for a long time. But peace on the frontier was always fragile. As the sun began to set again, Eli noticed movement on the ridge in the distance. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and his instincts told him to be cautious. He silently signaled the girls to stay inside while he mounted his horse and rode toward the ridge to investigate. It was nothing but a herd of wild deer, moving gracefully across the hills. Eli exhaled, a mixture of relief and lingering tension coursing through him. He returned to the girls, brushing off the concern with a calm smile. Nothing to worry about, he said. Just some deer enjoying the sunset. Naya and Sonny relaxed again, trusting his judgment. They had begun to sense that Eli Turner was not just a stranger, but someone they could rely on. And in the quiet moments that followed, Eli realized that his ranch, once a place of solitude, was now filled with a new kind of life, one that brought responsibility, challenge, and perhaps even joy. As night fell over the Montana frontier, Eli sat on the porch, gazing at the stars. The desert wind whispered across the land, carrying with it the scent of sage and pine. He thought of the girls sleeping safely inside, and of the journey that had brought them here. The frontier was unpredictable, full of danger and surprises. But for the first time in many years, Eli Turner felt a spark of something he had thought long lost: hope. Hope that the land he loved and the lives he touched could grow into something meaningful. Hope that the quiet life he had sought could now be shared, not just endured. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new discoveries, and perhaps even new dangers. But tonight, there was peace, however fleeting. And in that peace, Eli knew he had made the right choice: to help, to protect, and to stand as a guardian for those who could not yet stand for themselves. The desert night was vast and silent, filled with the hum of insects and the distant howl of a coyote. Eli leaned back, watching the stars, and whispered a promise to the sleeping girls. No harm would come to them while he was around. The frontier was a wild place, full of risk, but it was also a place where trust, courage, and kindness could take root, and Eli Turner was ready to sow them both. And somewhere deep in the night, as the wind carried the scent of sage and earth across the ranch, it seemed that the land itself had approved. The morning sun spilled golden light across Eli Turner's ranch. Birds chirped in the trees, and the small herd of cows wandered the open fields, their soft lowing blending with the rustle of wind through the grass. The day after rescuing Naya and Sonny had brought an unusual kind of calm to the ranch. For the first time in many years, Eli felt the ranch truly alive, not just with animals, but with human presence, laughter, and curiosity. Eli was already outside when the girls emerged from the guest room. Naya's dark hair was tied loosely with a cloth strip, and Sonny's eyes sparkled with energy she hadn't shown the day before. They moved carefully, aware of their new surroundings, but the warmth of the ranch and Eli's calm presence made them more confident. "Good morning," Eli greeted, his voice warm. "Sleep well?" "Yes," Naya said softly. The bed was comfortable. Sonny grinned, and it was quiet. "No wind whipping against the walls like in the desert," Ellie chuckled. "That's the benefit of solid walls. You get used to it pretty fast." He motioned toward the breakfast table. "Come on, breakfast is ready. Eat well, you'll need energy for today." The meal was simple: fresh bread, eggs from the hens, and a little smoked meat Eli had stored for emergencies. The girls ate hungrily, the exhaustion of their journey fading with each bite. Conversation flowed easily, and for the first time Eli noticed the sisters laughing softly at small jokes and stories. Their laughter was cautious but genuine, and it brightened the old ranch house in a way he hadn't felt in years. After breakfast, Eli decided it was time for the girls to explore the ranch. He wanted them to feel a sense of belonging, even if only temporary, and he thought the chores would help. He handed Sonny a small bucket. "Time to feed the chickens," he instructed. "It's not hard, but you have to be gentle and patient." Sonny nodded seriously and followed Eli to the chicken coop. Naya, curious as always, stayed back to watch Eli work on repairing a fence that had been damaged by the last windstorm. She asked questions constantly. Why the wood was placed a certain way, why the wire had to be pulled tight, why the posts had to be dug deep into the ground. Eli answered patiently, realizing that curiosity was a sign of intelligence and attention to detail. By late morning, the girls had learned the basics of ranch life. They could feed the animals, collect eggs, and even water the small vegetable garden behind the house. The garden was simple, but the sisters' enthusiasm transformed it into a place of exploration and wonder. Sani gently touched the leaves of young tomato plants, marveling at the soft fuzz, while Naya crouched to examine a tiny sprout that had just broken through the soil. "Everything grows so fast here," Naya said, her voice filled with awe. "It's different from the desert. It's alive." Eli smiled. "The land has its ways. You have to take care of it, and it'll take care of you." It's simple, but true. As the sisters explored, Eli took a break and walked toward a small hidden building at the edge of the property. He had never really used it, but curiosity had always drawn him to the old structure. The building was made of stone and reinforced wood, its door creaking loudly as he pushed it open. Inside, he found remnants of old machinery, cogs, levers, and strange contraptions that looked like something out of a storybook. When Naya and Sani followed him inside, their eyes widened. "What is this?" Sani asked, pointing at a large brass device with glowing tubes. "An old lab," Eli explained. "I found it years ago. Some inventor must have worked here trying to make machines to help the land. Most of it doesn't work now, but some of it still has energy in it." The sisters circled the room, touching the strange devices carefully. Naya noticed a small lever attached to a metal box. "What does this do?" she asked. Eli shrugged. "Honestly, I don't know. Best not to touch it too much." Sani reached out and nudged the lever gently. A soft hum began, and lights flickered inside the machine. Then, slowly, a small stream of water began to flow into the garden outside, faster than any irrigation Eli had set up himself. The sisters gasped. "It works!" Sani exclaimed, clapping her hands. Ellie's eyes widened. "Well, I'll be." He watched as the garden quickly absorbed the water, plants standing taller, leaves glistening. "I guess you've activated the old irrigation system. Clever work." From that moment, the girls felt a sense of purpose. Not only were they safe, but they could contribute to life on the ranch. They helped Eli tend the animals, repair fences, and even experiment carefully with the old machinery. Each day, the sisters' confidence grew, and so did their bond with Eli. But not everything was peaceful. The town nearby had grown suspicious. Some neighbors whispered about the cowboy with strangers on his land. Eli ignored it mostly, but he knew curiosity often led to trouble in the frontier. Word could spread fast, and not everyone in town was trustworthy. He made a mental note to remain cautious. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Naya asked a question that surprised Eli. "Eli, why did you help us?" He paused, looking at the horizon, the mountains turning dark against the orange sky. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because nobody should be left out there alone, scared, with no one to trust. That's all." Naya looked down at her hands, thinking. "You don't have to do that for anyone. Most people would just walk away." Eli shook his head. "Not everyone. Some of us, we try to do better even when it's hard. You're smart, brave, I could see that. I wanted to give you a chance." The sisters were silent for a moment, and then Sani whispered, "We're lucky to have you." Eli smiled softly. "I think I'm the lucky one." The next few days passed in a routine of work, exploration, and quiet reflection. Eli taught the girls to ride horses, how to check the water troughs, and even how to spot signs of danger in the wild terrain. The sisters proved themselves fast learners and were eager to help. By the end of the week, they could handle chores on their own, and Eli could see the spark of independence shining in their eyes. One morning, a small mechanical humming drew their attention again to the old lab. Naya and Sani had been experimenting carefully, learning to manipulate the levers and cogs. This time they managed to repair a small wind-powered pump, which began drawing water from the nearby creek directly into the garden. The ranch was thriving more efficiently than ever, and Eli couldn't help but feel amazed at their ingenuity. "You two have a natural talent," he said, genuinely impressed. "This is more than just survival skills. You've got the brains for machines, too." The girls beamed with pride. For the first time since fleeing the desert, they felt capable, strong, and needed. Eli watched them closely, feeling a sense of accomplishment that went beyond ranch work. He had rescued them from danger, yes, but he was also witnessing the growth of two young women into confident, capable individuals. Even as the days passed peacefully, the frontier's unpredictability reminded him to remain vigilant. He noticed distant smoke from campfires on the horizon, and he kept an eye out for unexpected visitors. But inside the ranch, for now, all was calm. Laughter echoed, animals thrived, and the old machinery whirred softly in the background. As night fell over the Montana landscape, Eli sat on the porch again, the stars scattered across the dark sky. Naya and Sonny had gone inside to rest, their energy spent on the day's tasks. Eli reflected on how quickly life could change. One day he had been alone, thinking the frontier's dangers were behind him. Now he had responsibility for these two brave girls, and he found that he welcomed it. The desert wind whispered across the land, carrying the scent of sage and pine. Eli felt a strange sense of anticipation. The ranch was alive, yes, but there were stories yet untold, mysteries hidden in the old lab, challenges that would test their courage, and a world beyond the hills that might bring both danger and opportunity. For now, though, there was peace. And in that peace, Eli Turner felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that life on the ranch could be more than survival, that trust and kindness could flourish in the wild frontier, and that together they could face whatever the world had in store. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and discoveries. But tonight, under the vast Montana sky, the three of them were safe, together, and ready for whatever came next. The Montana morning was crisp, the kind of cold that bites at the skin if you're not careful. Eli Turner stood at the edge of his ranch, watching the horizon for any signs of trouble. Life had settled into a rhythm, but the frontier was never truly peaceful. He had learned long ago that danger could appear when least expected. Naya and Sonny were already up, tending to the chickens and gathering eggs from the coop. Their laughter carried softly across the yard, a pleasant sound that eased Eli's mind. He had been teaching them to be aware of their surroundings while working, and they were learning quickly. The desert had taught them survival, but the ranch taught them stability, and now a sense of belonging. Suddenly, Eli noticed movement on the far ridge. It was subtle at first, a ripple against the grass, but then a flicker of color that didn't belong in the natural landscape. He squinted, hand resting on the rifle strapped to his back. A small group of riders approached, kicking up dust in the morning sun. "Looks like company," he muttered under his breath. Naya and Sonny paused, sensing the change in his tone. "Who are they?" Sonny asked, her voice cautious. Eli shook his head. "I don't know yet. Stay close and be ready to move if needed." The riders came closer, and Eli could see their faces now, rough, hardened, and suspicious. It was a small gang of outlaws who had been causing trouble in nearby towns. They had heard rumors of a cowboy with something unusual on his land, and their curiosity had led them here. Eli moved quietly toward the barn, signaling the girls to follow. "Inside," he whispered. "Stay low and don't make a sound." From the safety of the barn, Eli observed the gang. They were examining the ranch, looking for signs of valuable goods or easy prey. Eli's mind raced. The girls were not just guests. They were part of his responsibility. He needed to protect them, and quickly. "Do you think they'll come inside?" Naya asked, her voice tight with worry. "They might," Eli replied. "But we have a few advantages they don't know about." He gestured toward the old lab at the edge of the property. The sisters had discovered its small energy devices and irrigation systems, but Eli had kept its full capabilities secret. If used wisely, the lab could provide unexpected support. Eli crept from the barn with Naya and Sonny following behind, keeping low among the shadows. As they approached the lab, he whispered instructions. "I need you two to help me with the devices. Don't touch anything that sparks or hums too loudly. Just follow my lead." The sisters nodded, eyes wide but determined. They had learned to trust Eli, and they were ready to contribute. Together, they activated one of the small mechanical pumps that directed water into a series of pipes running across the property. Eli adjusted the valves, aiming the streams to create sudden bursts of water. When the gang finally approached the main house, the water shot from hidden pipes, spraying them unexpectedly. Horses stamped and panicked, and the outlaws struggled to regain control. Eli used the confusion to his advantage, riding out from the barn with his rifle slung over his shoulder. "Get out of here," he shouted, his voice strong and commanding. The gang, caught off guard by the sudden defense, hesitated. Eli's knowledge of the land gave him a clear path, and he moved swiftly, guiding the girls to positions of safety behind the fences. Naya and Sonny held their ground, ready to adjust the devices further under Eli's direction. The skirmish was brief but tense. Eli's combination of frontier skill and the sisters' quick thinking created a clever trap. The outlaws, slipping in mud and struggling with unexpected streams of water, finally realized they were outmatched. One by one, they retreated, riding away with angry curses, leaving the ranch in quiet triumph. After the danger had passed, Eli exhaled deeply. "That was close," he said, brushing dust from his coat. The sisters approached him, faces flushed with adrenaline. We helped," Sonny said proudly. "You did more than help," Eli replied. "You used your brains and your courage. I'm proud of you both." For the rest of the day, the ranch returned to its usual rhythm, but the encounter left a lingering awareness. The frontier was unpredictable, and threats could come from anywhere. Eli began teaching the girls about strategy, how to anticipate danger, how to use the land to their advantage, and how to remain calm under pressure. Over the following weeks, life on the ranch settled into a careful balance. The sisters continued learning, not just about ranch work, but about the old lab as well. Together, they discovered ways to use the machinery to make life easier: pumps for irrigation, small energy devices to power simple tools, and mechanisms to signal Eli if danger approached. Each discovery brought excitement and pride, and the girls' confidence grew steadily. But Eli knew that peace was temporary. The gang that had visited might return, or worse, other dangers from the frontier might appear. He also realized that teaching the girls to defend themselves and use the lab's devices was more than just a precaution. It was a necessity. The frontier demanded self-reliance, and he was preparing them for it. One evening, as the sun set in shades of orange and purple, Eli sat on the porch, watching the girls work in the garden. Naya was adjusting one of the small pumps while Sonny tended the vegetables. Their movements were precise and careful, showing the skills they had gained. "You're learning fast," Eli said, his voice carrying across the yard. Naya looked up, wiping sweat from her brow. "It feels good to help, to know we can do something." "You're both capable," Eli replied. "The frontier isn't kind, but it rewards those who pay attention and take action. You've got the brains and the courage to handle it." The sisters smiled, feeling a sense of pride that had been absent during their long journey across the desert. They had survived, yes, but now they were thriving. And they were thriving not because someone else saved them, but because they had learned, adapted, and contributed. That night, as the wind whispered across the plains, Eli reflected on the bond that had grown between them. It wasn't just protection or rescue. It was trust, respect, and mutual reliance. He realized that he had found not only companions but friends who understood the value of courage and patience. The next morning brought new challenges. A sudden storm rolled in from the west, bringing heavy rain and strong winds. The ranch needed attention, and the lab's devices required careful monitoring to prevent damage. Eli, Naya, and Sonny worked together tirelessly, adjusting valves, securing equipment, and keeping the animals safe. Their teamwork was seamless, a testament to the bond that had formed over weeks of learning, working, and surviving together. When the storm finally passed, the ranch was battered but intact. The sisters had proven themselves capable and reliable, earning Eli's deep respect. He realized that the frontier was not just about survival. It was about learning, growing, and forming connections that could withstand the harshest conditions. By the time the sun set again, the Montana sky was clear, the air fresh with the scent of rain on earth. Eli and the girls stood on the porch, looking out over the ranch. There was a sense of accomplishment and quiet pride, a feeling that they could face whatever came next together. But Eli knew that the frontier always held surprises. The gang that had tried to intimidate them might return, or other challenges could appear without warning. Yet he felt ready, not just because of his own skills, but because he had taught the sisters to think, act, and stand alongside him. They were no longer just guests. They were partners in survival and guardians of the ranch. As darkness fell, Eli lit the lanterns around the house, casting warm light across the yard. Naya and Sonny had gone inside to rest, their minds likely racing with the day's events and the lessons learned. Eli sat on the porch, staring at the stars, and felt a quiet satisfaction. The ranch was alive, not just with animals and machines, but with courage, trust, and a sense of shared purpose. The frontier was unpredictable, but for the first time in many years, Eli Turner felt ready for whatever came next. He had found companions, allies, and friends in Naya and Sonny. Together they had faced danger, solved problems, and grown stronger. And together they would face the future, whatever it might bring. The Montana night was quiet now, except for the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of an owl. Eli knew that peace might be temporary, but trust, courage, and teamwork could last, and for the first time in a long while, he felt truly at home on his ranch, with two brave young women who had become family in a land as wild and unpredictable as the desert itself. The morning air on Eli Turner's ranch was crisp and clear, carrying the scent of wet earth from the previous night's rain. The storm had passed, leaving the Montana landscape refreshed, the grass gleaming with tiny droplets of water. Eli stood at the edge of the yard, surveying his land. After weeks of training, teaching, and facing dangers together, he realized that the ranch felt more alive than it ever had. And it wasn't just because of the animals or the machinery. It was because of Naya and Sonny. The sisters were already busy. Naya checked the small mechanical pumps that fed water to the garden, while Sonny tended the animals, moving quickly and efficiently. Eli watched with a sense of pride. They had grown so much since their arrival, not just in skill, but in confidence. Each day, he saw them become more capable, more independent. "Good morning," Eli called, his voice warm. "Everything working okay?" Naya glanced up from her work, brushing sweat from her brow. "Yes, everything's fine. The pumps are running smoothly. Even the old irrigation system is behaving." Sonny nodded, a smile on her face. "The animals are happy. The hens laid more eggs than usual today." Allie smiled. "That's excellent. You two make this place feel alive." As they worked, the calm of the morning was broken by distant shouts and the thunder of hooves. Eli stiffened, recognizing the warning signs immediately. He motioned for the girls to stay low and ran toward the ridge, his rifle ready. The gang from the previous encounter had returned, larger this time and determined to take the ranch by force. The outlaws spread out, moving with confidence and arrogance, certain that the ranch and its occupants would be easy targets. But Eli had anticipated this. He had prepared the land, the machinery, and the girls for such a moment. Today, they were not defenseless. They were ready. "Stay behind me," Eli whispered to Naya and Sonny as they crouched near the barn. "Follow my lead and everything will be fine." The sisters nodded. Their hands shook slightly, but their eyes were determined. They had learned strategy, patience, and courage. They trusted Eli, and they trusted themselves. Eli activated the small mechanical pumps, aiming streams of water to cut off parts of the approach. The gang, caught in the sudden spray, cursed and slipped on the muddy ground. Horses panicked, riders struggled to maintain control, and chaos spread among the attackers. Naya and Sonny worked quickly, adjusting levers and valves on the pumps as Eli had taught them. Water shot from unexpected pipes, turning the ranch yard into a slippery, chaotic barrier. The outlaws were confused, unable to predict where the water would come from next. Their coordination fell apart. Eli used the distraction to his advantage. He moved swiftly, positioning himself where he could watch both the girls and the approaching gang. "Keep adjusting the pumps. Aim for the open ground, not the animals," he instructed calmly. Naya and Sonny followed orders perfectly, their hands steady despite the tension. The water sprayed in arcs, hitting the ground in precise bursts, funneling the gang toward sections of the ranch that Eli had prepared as traps. Old fences that had been reinforced weeks ago collapsed at the right moment, creating obstacles. Horses tripped, riders fell, and the gang's advance slowed to a crawl. Eli seized the opportunity. He fired warning shots near the gang's feet, keeping them at a distance while maintaining control of the situation. The sisters continued adjusting the machinery, their confidence growing with each successful maneuver. Finally, after a tense half hour, the gang realized they were outmatched. Frustrated, muddy, and beaten by clever traps and unexpected resistance, they retreated. Their leader shouted threats, promising to return, but Eli knew that the combination of strategy, preparation, and teamwork had secured the ranch, for now. The ranch was quiet again, except for the soft dripping of water and the heavy breathing of its defenders. Eli lowered his rifle, relief washing over him. He looked at the sisters, their faces flushed with adrenaline but also with pride. "You did it," he said softly. "All of you. You were amazing." Sonny grinned, brushing dirt from her clothes. "We couldn't have done it without you, Eli." Naya nodded. "We learned a lot. And I think we're stronger now." Eli felt a swell of emotion. They had come to him as frightened, exhausted girls, and now they were confident, capable young women. Not just survivors, but partners in defending the ranch. After the excitement, the three of them returned to the house. Eli helped the girls clean up while sharing a simple meal. The room was filled with quiet conversation and laughter, a peaceful contrast to the chaos outside. "I never thought I'd enjoy teaching so much," Eli said, looking at the sisters. "You two are smart, quick learners and brave. I've learned almost as much from you as you have from me." Naya smiled. "And you've given us safety. And a chance to alive, not just survive." Sonny added, "I like it here. I like helping, learning, and feeling like I belong." Eli nodded. "You belong here." with me, with the ranch. This place isn't just mine anymore. It's ours. As the days passed, life settled into a balanced rhythm. The sisters continued learning and helping with the ranch and the old lab, discovering new ways to use the machines to make life easier. They repaired old water pumps, learned to maintain fences, and even experimented with small devices that could generate energy for basic tools. The ranch flourished under their combined effort, each day more productive and efficient than the last. Beyond the work, the bond between Eli and the sisters deepened. They shared stories of their past, dreams for the future, and quiet moments of reflection. Trust, respect, and friendship formed the foundation of their relationship. Eli realized that family wasn't only about blood. It was about loyalty, care, and shared experiences. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky with brilliant reds and oranges, Eli and the sisters stood on the porch, looking out over the ranch. The wind carried the scent of wildflowers and fresh grass. For a moment, the world felt perfectly still. "Do you think the gang will come back?" Sonny asked, her voice thoughtful. "Maybe," Eli replied, "but we'll be ready. We've learned a lot, and we have each other." "That's what matters." Naya leaned against the railing, her expression calm. "I feel safe here. For the first time in a long time, I feel like we can face anything." Ellie nodded. "Exactly. And that's the point of all this. Not just survival, but confidence, trust, and family. We take care of each other, and we protect what matters." That night, as the Montana sky darkened and stars appeared one by one, the three of them gathered by the hearth. The lab's small devices glowed softly in the background, a reminder of the cleverness and ingenuity that had helped them survive. They shared quiet conversation, laughter, and plans for the days ahead. Eli reflected on the journey. He had started this chapter seeking peace after a long life of adventure, danger, and solitude. But he had gained something more than quiet. He had gained a family. Naya and Sonny were no longer just rescued travelers. They were partners, friends, and companions. The ranch was no longer just a place to live. It was a home. In the weeks that followed, the frontier remained unpredictable. Weather changed quickly, visitors came and went, and challenges arose. But Eli, Naya, and Sonny faced each one together. They built new defenses, expanded the garden, and explored the limits of the old lab's technology. They even began to plan for future adventures beyond the ranch, curious about the world that stretched beyond the Montana hills. Eli Turner, once a solitary cowboy, now had a purpose renewed by the presence of two brave young women. Together, they had faced danger, solved problems, and grown stronger. The frontier, wild and unpredictable as it was, had taught them valuable lessons: courage, trust, teamwork, and the importance of family. And so, life on the ranch continued. The animals thrived, the machines hummed softly, and the land itself seemed to approve of the harmony within it. Eli, Naya, and Sonny watched the sun rise each day, ready to face whatever challenges or adventures the frontier might bring. Their bond was unbreakable, forged through trust, courage, and shared experience. The Montana night was quiet once more. Stars twinkled across the sky, reflecting off the still waters of the creek. The ranch, safe and alive, stood as a testament to what could be accomplished through cooperation, wisdom, and care. Eli smiled, looking at the sleeping forms of Naya and Sonny in the guest room. For the first time in a long while, he felt a peace that was deep, lasting, and real. The frontier was wild, but so were they, and together, nothing could stop them.